Have you ever sent a text to the wrong person that completely changed your life? That heart-stopping moment when you realize what you've done, and there's no way to take it back? That's exactly what happened to Mark Collins, a dedicated single father who accidentally sent a heartfelt confession meant for his friend, directly to his intimidating boss, Sophia Martinez. What followed was a journey neither of them expected, filled with vulnerability, courage, and unexpected connection. Stay with me until the end to discover how one mistaken text message transformed two broken lives into something beautiful. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional journeys that remind us how life's biggest mistakes can sometimes lead to our greatest blessings. Mark Collins stared at his phone in horror, the blood draining from his face as realization dawned. The text he just sent, a deeply personal confession about his growing feelings for his boss, had gone to the wrong person. It had gone to her. To Sophia Martinez herself. His thumb hovered uselessly over the screen, as if there might be some magical unsend button he'd never noticed before. But there wasn't. The message had been delivered. Read. And now the 3 pulsing dots appeared, showing she was typing a response. Dad? Are you okay? His 8-year-old daughter Emma looked up from her cereal, concern etched across her small face. You look like you're gonna throw up. Mark forced a smile. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just remembered something I forgot to do for work. He set the phone face down on the kitchen counter, unable to watch those typing dots anymore. His heart hammered against his ribs as he tried to focus on getting Emma ready for school, all while his professional life potentially crumbled around him. Single parenthood had never been Mark's plan. When his wife Lisa died 3 years ago from breast cancer, he'd been thrust into a role he felt woefully unprepared for, raising their daughter alone while somehow keeping their financial heads above water. The graphic design job at Martinez Creative had been a lifeline, offering flexible hours and decent pay. And Sophia Martinez, despite her reputation for being demanding and perfectionistic, had shown unexpected understanding about his situation. That understanding had slowly evolved into something more, at least on his end. Admiration. Respect. And eventually, feelings he had no business harboring for his employer. Feelings he'd intended to confess to his best friend Ryan in that catastrophic text, seeking advice on how to get over this inappropriate crush. The text that now sat in Sophia's inbox read, I don't know what to do anymore. These feelings for Sophia aren't going away. She's not just brilliant and beautiful, she actually sees me, you know? The way she remembered Emma's birthday, the way she asks about the parent-teacher conferences. I know it's professional suicide to fall for your boss, but I can't help it. I think I'm in love with her, Ryan. And I have no idea what to do about it. Mark dropped Emma off at school with a distracted kiss on her forehead, then sat in his car in the parking lot, finally gathering the courage to look at his phone again. Sophia had responded. Mark, I think you meant to send this to someone else. Please see me in my office when you get in today. Formal. Professional. Giving nothing away. Somehow that made it worse. The drive to the office was the longest 20 minutes of Mark's life. His mind raced through scenarios, immediate termination, awkward reassignment, pity, disgust. By the time he parked in the company lot, he'd convinced himself this was the end of the stable life he'd built for Emma after so much struggle. Martinez Creative occupied the top 3 floors of a sleek downtown building. The design firm had grown from Sophia's one-woman operation to a team of 35 in just 7 years. Mark had been there for 2 of those years, watching with admiration as Sophia navigated the cutthroat world of advertising with grace and fierce intelligence. At 36, she was only 3 years older than Mark but seemed to exist in another league entirely, polished, confident, and intensely private. The elevator ride to the 14th floor felt like ascending to his own execution. When the doors opened, he forced himself to walk normally past the reception desk, past his own workstation where he'd normally drop his bag, and straight to Sophia's glass-walled office at the corner of the floor. She was on the phone, her back to the door as she gazed out at the city skyline. Mark knocked softly, and she turned, gesturing for him to enter and take a seat while she finished her call. He sat rigidly in one of the minimalist chairs facing her desk, studying her as she spoke in clipped, authoritative tones about deadline extensions and client expectations. Sophia Martinez was striking rather than conventionally beautiful, tall and lean with sharp cheekbones, her dark hair cut in a precise bob that emphasized her strong jawline. Today she wore a charcoal pantsuit with a deep burgundy blouse, her only jewelry a pair of small diamond studs and a sleek watch. Nothing about her suggested softness or accessibility, which made Mark's feelings all the more confounding, even to himself. She ended the call and set her phone down deliberately, finally meeting his eyes. "Mark." "Sophia, he began, but she held up a hand. "Before you say anything, I want to be clear about something. I run a professional business. The work environment I've created here matters to me, and I have 34 other employees to consider." Mark nodded miserably. "I understand. I'll clear out my desk today. I just want you to know that I would never have." "Clear out your desk." Sophia's brow furrowed. "I'm not firing you, Mark." He blinked, hope and confusion warring within him. "You're not." "No. You're one of my best designers. Your work is exceptional, and you've never been anything but professional in this office." She paused, seeming to choose her next words carefully. "That text was clearly not meant for me. We can simply pretend it never happened and continue our working relationship as before." Relief flooded through him, followed immediately by a different kind of pain. Pretend it never happened. Of course. What had he expected? "Thank you," he managed. "That's very understanding." Sophia nodded, then surprised him by adding, "For what it's worth, I'm flattered. But I think you might be confusing gratitude with other feelings. I've made accommodations for your situation with Emma because you're talented and valuable to this company, not for any personal reason." The gentle rejection stung more than he'd anticipated. "Of course. I understand completely." "Good." She glanced at her computer screen, a clear dismissal. "The Harrington presentation is at 2. I'll need your mock-ups by noon." "You'll have them," Mark promised, rising from the chair on legs that felt wooden. He was almost to the door when her voice stopped him. "Mark?" He turned back. "Yes?" Something flickered across her face, uncertainty, perhaps, or some emotion he couldn't quite identify. But then it was gone, replaced by her usual composed expression. "Nothing. We'll talk about the Harrington campaign later." The next few weeks were excruciating. Mark threw himself into his work, staying late after Emma went to bed to ensure his designs were flawless. He maintained strictly professional interactions with Sophia, speaking only about projects and deadlines. If colleagues noticed the new tension between them, no one mentioned it. At home, he tried to be fully present for Emma, who was struggling with a new math teacher and the social complexities of 3rd grade. But at night, alone with his thoughts, he berated himself for the careless text that had created this unbearable awkwardness with the woman he still couldn't stop thinking about. It was Emma who inadvertently changed everything, nearly a month after the texting disaster. Mark had brought her to the office on a Saturday to finish a time-sensitive project while she read books in the corner of his workspace. He'd stepped out to grab them lunch from the deli downstairs, returning to find Emma nowhere in sight. Panic seized him until he heard childish laughter coming from Sophia's office. He found them there, his boss and his daughter, surrounded by colored markers and large sheets of paper spread across Sophia's normally immaculate floor. "Dad!" Emma exclaimed. "Ms. Martinez is teaching me how to make mood boards. Look." She proudly held up a collage of colors, textures, and magazine cutouts that somehow worked together beautifully. "I hope you don't mind," Sophia said, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. "She wandered in while I was working on the Bellamy Hotel concept, and she seemed interested. "Of course I don't mind," Mark said, surprised to find Sophia in the office on a weekend. She usually delegated weekend work to her team. "I didn't realize you'd be here today." Something like embarrassment crossed her face. "I've been coming in most Saturdays lately. It's quieter." Emma tugged at Mark's sleeve. "Can we invite Ms. Martinez to have lunch with us? Please?" Mark froze, but before he could formulate a response, Sophia was already shaking her head. "That's very sweet, Emma, but I have plans." She began gathering the art supplies, her movements efficient and precise as always. "Oh." Emma's disappointment was palpable. "Maybe another time?" "Maybe," Sophia said noncommittally, not meeting Mark's eyes. Later that evening, after Emma was asleep, Mark's phone buzzed with a text. His heart jumped when he saw Sophia's name. "I lied today. I didn't have plans. I just panicked. The truth is, I've been avoiding being alone with you because I don't know how to handle this situation. I've never been in this position before." Mark stared at the message, reading it 3 times before carefully typing his response. "I understand. I'm sorry for making things uncomfortable. If you want me to look for another position, I will." Her reply came quickly. "That's not what I want." His pulse quickened. "What do you want, Sophia?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "I don't know. That's the problem. I've spent 7 years building this company, never allowing myself to blur the lines between professional and personal. I don't know how to navigate this." Mark took a deep breath and typed the most honest thing he could. "Neither do I. But maybe we could figure it out together? Coffee somewhere away from the office? Just to talk." The minutes stretched painfully as he waited for her response. When it came, it was just one word, "Okay." They met the following Sunday at a small cafe in a neighborhood far from both the office and their homes. Mark arrived first, claiming a corner table and ordering a black coffee that he didn't touch, his stomach too knotted with nerves. When Sophia walked in, he almost didn't recognize her. Gone was the power suit and perfect makeup. Instead, she wore jeans, a soft gray sweater, and minimal makeup, her hair tucked behind her ears. She looked younger, softer, and somehow more beautiful than he'd ever seen her. "Hi," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. "Hi," he echoed, suddenly at a loss for words despite having rehearsed this conversation a dozen times in his head. She ordered a tea and then turned to face him fully. "I should probably start by explaining something. The reason I've been so rigid about keeping personal and professional separate is because I've been burned before. Badly." Mark listened as she told him about her early career, working at a major advertising firm where she'd fallen in love with her creative director. How he'd used her ideas, taken credit for her work, and ultimately pushed her out when she confronted him. How she'd built Martinez Creative from nothing, vowing never to let personal feelings compromise her professional judgment again. "So when I got your text," she concluded, "my first instinct was to shut it down immediately. To protect what I've built." "I understand," Mark said quietly. "And I respect that. The last thing I want is to complicate your life or undermine your authority at the company." Sophia studied him, her dark eyes searching his face. "The problem is, I can't stop thinking about what you wrote. About being seen. Because the truth is, Mark, you see me too. Not just the boss, not just the success story. You notice things others don't." His heart hammered in his chest. "Like what?" "Like how I always keep blue pens on the left side of my desk and black ones on the right. Like how I tap my fingers in sequence when I'm thinking. Like how I actually hate those pretentious client lunches at Maison but go because it impresses the clients." A small smile touched her lips. "You're observant. It's what makes you a good designer. And it's disconcerting to be observed so closely. I'm sorry if that makes you uncomfortable. It doesn't, exactly. It makes me feel known. Which is both terrifying and... She trailed off, looking down at her untouched tea. And? Mark prompted gently. And something I might want more of, she finished, meeting his gaze again with newfound resolution. But I have no idea how to do this, Mark. I've never dated an employee. I've never wanted to, until now. Hope bloomed in his chest. We could take it slow. Be discreet. Figure it out as we go. What about Emma? Sophia asked. Have you thought about what this might mean for her? The question surprised him, not because he hadn't considered it, but because Sophia had. Emma's my priority in everything, he said. She's been through enough loss already. I wouldn't introduce anyone into her life unless I was certain they would be a positive presence. Sophia nodded thoughtfully. That's fair. And wise. They talked for hours, long after their drinks went cold. About boundaries and expectations. About the practical challenges of dating while maintaining professional respect. About Emma and Mark's life as a single parent. About Sophia's demanding family and her struggle to balance her Puerto Rican heritage with her professional ambitions. By the time they left the cafe, walking together through the crisp autumn air, something had shifted between them. The awkwardness had been replaced by a tentative understanding, a foundation for whatever might come next. I'd like to take you to dinner, Mark said as they reached her car. A proper date. If you're willing. Sophia considered him for a long moment, then nodded. I'd like that. But Mark? Yes? At work, nothing changes. I'm still your boss. The work comes first. Absolutely, he agreed. I wouldn't want it any other way. Their first date was at a small Italian restaurant where neither of them knew anyone. Sophia arrived in a deep blue dress that made Mark momentarily forget how to speak. They shared pasta and wine and stories from their lives before Martinez creative. Mark told her about meeting Lisa in college, their whirlwind romance, and the devastating years of her illness. Sophia described growing up in a traditional family that valued security over creativity, and her father's disappointment when she left a prestigious law track to pursue design. He didn't speak to me for almost a year, she admitted. Now he brags about me to his friends, but he's never actually said he's proud of me. He should be, Mark said. What you've built is extraordinary. She smiled, a genuine smile that transformed her face. Thank you. That means a lot, especially from someone who understands the work. As weeks passed, they settled into a careful rhythm. At the office, they maintained strict professionalism, no lingering glances, no special treatment, no indication that anything had changed. But evenings and weekends became precious opportunities to explore their growing connection. Mark introduced Sophia to Emma gradually, first as his boss who sometimes joined them for casual outings, then eventually as someone special in his life. Emma, with a child's intuition, seemed to understand the significance before either adult acknowledged it. Do you like my dad? She asked Sophia point-blank one Saturday as they walked through the park, Mark having stepped away to buy ice cream. Sophia, caught off guard, answered honestly. Yes, Emma. I like your dad very much. Good, Emma nodded decisively. He smiles more now. Before, he only smiled with his mouth, not his eyes. Now he smiles with both. The observation, so simple yet profound, brought unexpected tears to Sophia's eyes. That's a very smart thing to notice. Emma shrugged. My mom used to say you should watch people's eyes, not their mouths, to know how they really feel. She looked up at Sophia curiously. Did you know my mom? No, Sophia said gently. I didn't have that privilege.